I grew up at URJ Camp Harlem. It's where I met Eitan. That chapel on the hill is where I learned to pray. Camp Harlem is my local Union for Reform Judaism camp in rural Pennsylvania. In my first year on staff, a new assistant director named Sam Roberts started. He came from a foreign land called California. He had the sun-kissed tan, affable smile, and warm personality of a Beach Boys song. But the thing I remember most was his authenticity and confidence, the way he came into a new community seemingly free to be himself. His introduction to us came with a catchphrase that seemed way too corny to work. It was just too goofy. But he said it with his whole body, loudly and proudly, and had all of us repeat him. Almost every time that he got up in front of us that summer, we knew it was coming. I love being Jewish! Sam is going to love this. At the beginning of that summer, I was way too cool for school. I love being Jewish. But his genuine goodness and enthusiasm won me over. Within a few weeks, I was screaming, I love being Jewish, with the enthusiasm of Sam right at my campers. His authenticity, his modeling of what it means to bring your full self into a space, his letting go of inhibitions and insecurities, his display of feeling accepted and supported, his freedom to just be him, was everything I valued about camp. This summer, I made my return to camp after many years, with Miley and Aria and Caleb in tow, and had the blessing of serving on faculty of our local Union for Reform Judaism camp, Camp Newman, a hub of youth and congregational engagement across our states and the region. Cute. Our time there was filled with special, magical camp moments. On my last day of teaching Judaism and hip-hop to teenagers, a 15-year-old, is that news to some of you? Surprise! I ran it through twice, and this kid came back for all 6 sessions. He made me completely change what was supposed to be a repeat course. But he was invested. He had never connected his love of hip-hop to Judaism. He was from a rough part of Sacramento where there aren't many Jews, and he pulled me aside. He was struggling with his peers at camp, making jokes about serious things that he knew too well from his life at home. He was struggling, feeling like he didn't fit in with his friends at home because he was Jewish. He was struggling with anti-Semitism at school, and he was struggling at camp. He was struggling. He had a lot on his shoulders. Camp for him provided space to unload his burdens, to find an adult to talk to. Ultimately, our conversation led him to understand the power of his voice and use his struggles as a leadership opportunity to speak up. Just a few hours after our conversation, I was playing basketball, and I walked past him through where his cabin was. And he was talking to a group, and I wanted to say hi. I actually did say hi. I was like, hey, what's up? And I realized very quickly that they were in a very serious conversation. I was ignored completely. He told me later that he was having that conversation with his peers as I walked by, immediately confronting the issue and helping them understand. I was in awe. It was an amazing moment. In the middle of our time at camp, Aria, who's taken many swim lessons, but would not swim, got inspired by her friends and decided to take the plunge. She just started swimming. I guess she felt safe, supported. She and Caleb then did something that I don't even like doing. They climbed the rock wall for the first time. I don't like heights. But they felt safe. They made more friends with campers and staff than I could count. They jumped into Israeli dancing and sang their first unit song in front of the entire camp. It was amazing to watch them blossom. One day I found myself in a conversation with other faculty members. That's cute too, right? I have an identical one of the female staff. I don't know how it ended up gendered, but it was. I'll show you later. One day I found myself in conversation with these amazing people, most of whom I had met for the first time that summer. One person shared vulnerably about their struggles of raising their child over the past few years. The dangers, the fear, the resources, the time, the upheaval of their life. The domino effect was quick. Another shared challenges with their parents of having to make hard choices for their career and children. The fallout over feelings of abandonment and isolation. Another shared challenges of having a child with special needs. In this circle of vulnerability that quickly formed, it took me no time to share my own challenges over the past few years. The summer reminded me of something I seemed to forget. I was my best self at camp. Camp allowed me to let go of who I thought I should be for who I am. Camp let me tell the story of who I am with my whole heart. And remember that what makes me vulnerable also makes me beautiful and special. As we drove out of camp's gates and headed home, I was reminded of the saddest part of camp. It's not year-round. For generations now, synagogues have tried to capture the magic of camp with special camp Shabbats and reworked teen programs and calling religious school teachers counselors or madrichim. But it doesn't work because I think we haven't been focusing on the right ingredient of camp's special sauce. Brené Brown, the famed researcher of human connection and vulnerability, teaches that connection is the very reason we're here. It's what gives purpose and meaning to human life. But she found something strange when researching connection. Something so strange that she had to find a therapist to talk it through because she had, in her words, a breakdown. But in her therapist's words, she had a spiritual awakening. She went in and told her therapist, "I have a vulnerability issue. It seems the core of shame and fear and struggle for worthiness is also the birthplace of joy, of creativity, of belonging, of love." She found that the key to connection and also the kryptonite that unraveled it were both vulnerability. On the one hand, in order for real connection to happen, we have to allow ourselves to be seen, really seen. On the other hand, vulnerability can lead to feelings of shame, a feeling of unworthy, a feeling I'm not good enough, not smart enough, not pretty enough, not rich enough. The key to that healthy vulnerability, according to Brené Brown, is simple but difficult. We have to let ourselves be seen. Camp this summer helped me understand that the key, the fertile ground upon which camp blossoms, is that healthy vulnerability. When we leave the safe space, for whatever reason, we tighten back up. We snap back into thinking we need to project that everything is okay all of the time, that we have it together, that our jobs are great, that our extended families don't have drama, that we don't want to strangle our kids, that we have no sins. Sorry, I just added that one off the cuff. I love my kids. Depending on the religious community, letting ourselves be truly seen can be a tall task. There are so many barriers, sometimes self-inflicted, sometimes community-inflicted, sometimes so many that we just give up. We stop showing up, or we show up occasionally, or we allow ourselves to be passive members of community, or even leave altogether. So many of us willingly opt out of the parts of religious life and religious community that bring us the most reward because it's inconvenient, because there's little instant gratification, because we're tired, because we think we can replace community with something else. Author Jill Filipovich, who's a sharp critic of organized religion and its forceful impact on our politics and country, recognizes the challenge of the societal downturn in religious community participation. She asks, where do we come together across age, class, and educational lines to mull over big ideas and offer mutual support? Her answers, she says, are all insufficient. There was college, There was work, there was my yoga studio, but none offer quite what has gone missing with the downturn in religious community. Filipovich mentions the findings of journalist Jessica Gross of the New York Times, who asked what replaced religion for some. Meditation, long walks, time spent in nature, physical activity. Filipovich reiterates, these are all good things, all with proven benefits for one's mental and or physical health. You should definitely meditate. You should definitely take a walk. You should definitely marvel at the beauty of the natural world. You should definitely do something physical that challenges you and makes your body feel good. But none of that is a replacement for community and in-person connection, including with people who come from different backgrounds, see the world differently, and are in different places in their lives. Jake Meador, a journalist at The Atlantic, looked into the reason why Americans are trending away from religious communities. In part, he reviewed a book called The Great Dechurching, which had a rather simple finding. The defining problem driving out most people who leave religious community is just how American life works in the 21st century. Contemporary America isn't set up to promote mutuality, care, or common life. Rather, it's designed to maximize individual accomplishment as defined by professional and financial success. Such a system leaves precious little time for energy for forms of community that don't contribute to one's own professional life or, as one ages, to the professional prospects of one's children. Workism reigns in America, and because of it, community in America, religious community included, is a math problem that doesn't add up. If it's not obvious, this is bad. Not just for houses of worship like Beth Shir Shalom trying to stay afloat, but for society as a whole. This summer at camp was a window into a different possibility, something we have within our hands the power to build if we have the will. Rabbi Kalonymus Kalman Shapira, a beloved Hasidic rabbi in the Warsaw Ghetto who died in the Holocaust in 1943, wrote a book in the 1920s called Conscious Community. The book is a guide for his Hasidim, his followers, to build community. There he is. He writes, our goal is to gradually rise above the noise and tumult of the world by steady, incremental steps. The whole premise of our group is the vast human potential for both baseness and elevation. Our bodies and souls are currently quite unevolved, but our potential for holiness is very great. This is the task of community in 2023 and 5784, to rise above the noise and tumult of the world and work to realize our holiness, individually and as a community. In our community calendar this year, you'll find more events and programs that bring us together to break bread, to discuss big ideas, to hear different perspectives, to sing and pray, to celebrate and travel. There's one program in particular that I'm pretty excited about and want to highlight for you, and we're calling it Happy Havdalah Hangout. It was a calendar filler, but we were like, you know what? That's pretty good. On most third Saturdays throughout the year, our whole community will gather, from our tiniest babes hanging out with Jessica to our wisest elders. The building will be full of activities, Baby and Me, singing, music, arts and crafts, games. Torah study will be in person those weeks, and so many more exciting things. Something for every age, led by me and Rabbi Neil, Jessica and Eitan, our ECC and religious school staffs. After our activities wrap up, we're all going to gather together as a community, from those tiniest babes to our wisest elders. We're going to sing Havdalah together as a community and welcome a new week. But gathering is only one piece of the puzzle, only one of our tasks. My time at camp this summer helped me understand that the key to unlocking the type of community that rises above the noise and tumult of the world and helps us realize our potential for holiness is the healthy vulnerability that Brené Brown talks about. Last year, I stood up here and shared some of the rivers I had crossed in the past few years. Since then, many of you have shared with me that sermon's vulnerability spoke to you. But to me, it felt like a one-off, a one-directional moment. When I went to camp this summer and experienced the secret sauce of camp as an individual, as a rabbi, as a parent, as a partner, I understood my definition of Jewish community clearly. It's not simply where Judaism happens. It's where I feel safe, where I feel seen, where I don't have to pretend, where I can be my weird, wonderful, flawed self, where I can scream, I love being Jewish! Mulligan. I love being Jewish! I am now less convinced that one of us won't fall next year. Where I can scream, I love being Jewish, and know that I can be accepted and embraced and loved. One of our first days at camp, as we were walking to the Chadar Ochel, the dining hall, I heard kids screaming far away. I didn't know where they were screaming from, but I could hear them softly but clearly. I love being Jewish. Apparently, this was the place, Camp Newman, where Sam started the tradition. Campers hike up to a Jewish star on the hill, and they scream out for all camp to hear below them, I love being Jewish. By the end of our 2 weeks at Camp Newman, the I love being Jewish torch had been passed.
We love being Jewish!
What I inherited from Sam in Kunkletown, Pennsylvania, was passed on to Aria and Caleb, where Sam started it all those years ago. But more than that, I hope they inherit a community or communities where they can be their whole weird, funky, flawed, beautiful, imperfect selves. I hope they can be honest about their flaws, reflective of their mistakes, and loved and accepted in their process of growth. There's a Japanese practice and philosophy called kintsugi. When a ceramic dish breaks, it's not only fixed, but its new cracks are highlighted in gold or other precious metal. As a philosophy, it understands breaking and repair as an inevitable part of an object's or a person's history. Kintsugi teaches us that it is something to celebrate, not something to hide. When I arrived here 2 years ago, I was a bunch of pieces scotch taped together. There was no kintsugi. This community, the people on our professional team, particularly Cynthia, all of you here today, and people on YouTube, the students in our classrooms, helped put me back together. It's been a journey to learn to celebrate the brokenness and not hide it. But it's also shown me the power that being vulnerable has to heal, to locate joy, to spark creativity, to belong, to love where I'm at. One artist over the past few years has really helped me accept my cracks and my brokenness, my imperfections. Alan Stone, if you've ever seen him, brings his whole beautiful, weird, funky self to his music and has helped me truly love where I'm at. In just a moment, Jessica and Eitan are going to sing his song. It's called Where You're At, if you didn't get that. About vulnerability, about allowing ourselves to be seen, really, really seen, and about learning to love ourselves in all our messy imperfection. I hope in 5784 you lean into community. I hope we can rise above the noise and tumult of the world to realize Our holiness exists only alongside our struggles. And most importantly, I hope we can all learn to love where we're at and feel safe to share our whole beautiful selves with our community and the world. Shana Tova.
Keep my dirt on the surface so you don't gotta dig. The people that make me nervous try to hide all their sins, and I've got no reason to cover my tracks. The best part of learning is just loving where you're at. So love where you're at. Yeah, love where you're at. And keep your dirt on the surface and just love where you're at. Love where you're at.
So love where you're at. Yeah, love where you're at. Keep your dirt on the surface and just love where you're at.
Yeah, love where you're at. Yeah, love where you're at. Keep your dirt on the surface and just love where you're at. Love where you're at.
I'd like to invite up our president, Deb Novak, for some words and announcements. How will they know who you are?